last week, Larry, you and I talked a little bit about the trade deadline and whether or not the Niners might bring in some help. And we're getting closer to it now. I heard Matt Mayoko, our friend Matt Mayoko, say that we shouldn't expect a big splash from the 49ers making any kind of big headline news at the deadline. Where are you coming from on that, Larry? You think we're good, or do you think they need to make a splash for the second half? How do you look at that whole thing?
Well, first let me share with you the latest on this. This was Lynch this morning.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to give you any flashbacks, but he was on
Shout out Brian Murphy. I know him well.
Yeah, he was on with Murph.
Yeah.
And today Brooksy was in there.
Brooksy.
And here we go. Here is Lynch this morning on the phone with Brian and Rod.
Okay. So you're getting other guys back as well. Jawan Jennings is the first name that pops to my mind. I'm curious, with the trade deadline, John, coming up next week, does the prospect of getting players back off of the injured list, does that impact your decision-making in any way, shape, or form when it comes to making a trade?
Well, I think when you're looking at a trade deadline, we've taken advantage of it in a number of the years in which we've been here, and it's been really good to us. It's just got to be a fit, and you're always calling and receiving calls. This year is a little bit different in that we've had such I look at this list, and it's McCaffrey, Feliciano, Jennings, Greenlaw, Yetur Gross-Matos, Talanoa Hufanga. There's a lot of really good players that we can get back to strengthen this team. And we loved our team coming into the season. Not where we want to be. We're 4-4, but we've got a lot in front of us. So we're just going to take it week by week. And one thing this team has shown the ability under Kyle to do is get better throughout the course of the season and play our best ball when it matters most. And I do look at that injury list and say, hey, we got a chance. John Feliciano is another guy. We got a chance to get a lot of these guys back, and that can buoy our team. And that's as good as any trade we could make, because these guys are familiar with what we do, how we do it. But in saying that, if something comes together, and nothing's imminent right now, I will tell everyone that. But if something does come together here, the trade deadline's on election day. Interesting how they did that. And
I know.
But if anything comes by then, that makes sense. It can make us a better football team, fits with our financial position and all those things, and we'll certainly pull the trigger. But I do like the list of guys. Jake Moody, I forgot to talk about our kicker. He's trending well, and there's a chance we have him for Tampa as well.
John, we're praying you make a trade so we have something to talk about the day after the election. Please, John, please. Make a move, buddy. Just make a move. It's going to be a tough day, John. Wednesday the 6th.
So you're getting...
All right, there you go. Okay, so that was Lynch talking a little bit about the trade deadline. And, it's interesting because we titled the stream, Why the 49er Trade Deadline Plan May Be Too Passive. And you heard him there. He doesn't sound... Now, in one hand, I banged on Farhan because Farhan overpromised and underdelivered. And John's doing the opposite, which is good sales, which is don't get your fan base expecting you to make a move, because then if you don't, you failed, right? So you always downplay the need. Why? Because the people who you're trading with could be listening. And then if they think you've got he's already gone on this 50,000 watt radio station promising his fans he's going to make a trade. He's got to make a trade. Okay, well, we demand a fourth. Then we normally would ask for a fifth, but we want a fourth because we know he's desperate.
Right,
so,
right.
There's no advantage to publicly saying anything that creates any level of expectation. So that's one. So I think what he said today is smart. But if you also take it at face value, it might be too passive. I mean, they have Jake Moody coming back. Okay. They've got John Feliciano coming back. He doesn't even play. He doesn't even start. I mean, John Feliciano's coming back to what? Back up Aaron Banks and Dom Pooney and Brendel. Okay. How's that? Is that going to make a huge impact? McCaffrey's coming back. Maybe not. JJ's coming back from a hip injury. Okay. But is he a fast receiver who's dynamic? No. And your fast dynamic receiver that you signed to $30 million is done for the year. So, I mean, Givens is coming back, but Givens is just a guy, just one guy in a rotation. So I don't know. I mean, I think he's painting a picture of, hey, we got all these guys coming back. We don't need anything.
Yeah.
But I think that's not true. I think that the 49ers absolutely need an edge rusher to give them more teeth on their defense. And they absolutely, in my opinion, need either to suddenly lean on Jacob Cowing, or they need a speed threat at wide receiver. And then if McCaffrey comes back, then they don't need anything at running back. But if McCaffrey doesn't come back, then they do need something at running back. So to me, those are the three areas. You got a Fonga coming back, so you don't need a safety. You have Greenlaw maybe coming back, so maybe you don't need a linebacker. But some of these guys are not going to successfully make it back. So then you got to ask yourself, what's really pressing? I think what's really pressing is a defensive end, a wide receiver with speed, and another running back, preferably with power, if McCaffrey fails in his bid to come back.
Yeah.
That's what I think they need.
Yeah, those are all good points. And like you said, I mean, expecting a lot from Christian McCaffrey as soon as he comes back, if he comes back, is a pretty dicey proposition just because it's an unknown commodity. We just don't know. That's an unknown commodity. You also mentioned the need for an edge rusher. I will say this. I thought Nick Bosa had a particularly good game. He was harassing the shit out of Dak Prescott all night long. Do you think let's just say they don't bring in an edge rusher? I've wondered this at times, Krugs, like whether or not they should move Bosa around on the line, let him line up against other guys throughout the game. Like, what do you think? Or would you just keep him out there on the edge where he does his best work?
Well, I mean, I'd always hunt for the best matchup. If I felt like, and I'd move him around if I could.
Yeah.
And hunt for the best matchup. I mean, if you feel like you've got a matchup in the A gap, then put him in the A gap. But I mean, I think he's an edge rusher for a reason. I also think there's a risk, Paulie. He means so much to the 49ers. When you have an edge rusher, he has a better chance of protecting his legs outside the tackle box.
That's a good point.
If you start playing him too many snaps inside the tackle box,
that's where guys
falling centers, falling guards, falling linemen could easily fall into Nick. And so I don't want to risk that too much.
Dude, you remember I was at Candlestick this night when Kenny Norton fell into BY, for example. Like, that's a worst case scenario. But to your point, that kind of shit does happen on the inside. Like, guys are falling all over each other. And you're right. That's a very good point. Yeah, protecting Bosa's health is of the utmost importance. It really is. But he had a nice game. He had 4 quarters of really good pressure. He played really well.
No question. No question. He played really, really well.